Overlooking the beautiful city of Rochester, New York, hosting Steeler Nation Live, your hosts, Big Tiz and Big O.
Welcome, fans. Steeler Nation Live. Big Tiz.
And I'm Big O.
Hey, guys, the Steelers were up for another game. Came out on the short end of this one. They lost to the Ravens. What's going on, Big O?
I don't know, Big Tiz. We touched early before the show, gathering notes and stuff. Something about the defense being on vacation.
That's what a lot of it has to do with. But you know what? Before we step to that, we're going to talk about a new sponsor to the show.
You know what, Big Tiz? Delicious. Delish. I got to tell you. Now, we all know that Big Sal over at McGinney's is our number one sponsor. You go to Sal's, McGinney's, you got your potato skins, you got your chicken wings, you got your drink specials, you got your bar specials. Not only do you got the finger foods, the hamburgers, and all that neat stuff, but you also have delicious Italian cuisine. Okay. However, sometimes you got to step out of your comfort zone.
Right.
So, father-in-law took me and the missus out to dinner the other night. Otto Tomatoes. You heard it right, folks. If you're familiar with Rochester area, Otto Tomatoes is a great Italian cuisine, and I'll tell you why. Familiar with Rochester, we got your Marios, you got your Basils, you got your Panucci's, you got your Papa Joe's, Pastaville, you got it all. But what makes this place so special, Big Tiz,
right?
There's no glitz, no glamour. But you get the food like it was. I mean, the service was fantastic, the atmosphere was fantastic. But if you're looking for that, if you're looking for the football, the bar scene, the sports scene,
right,
the restaurant, you get it all in one package. Definitely going on to McGinney's, East River Road, Henrietta, Rochester, New York. See Big Sal at McGinney's, home of the Pittsburgh Steelers Fan Club Rochester. That's fine and dandy, not taking anything away from Sal. But if you're looking for that low-keyed atmosphere with that high-keyed taste and food, Otto Tomatoes, 300 Phoenix Mills Plaza here in Victor, New York. It's a little drive, but it's worth the drive.
Right.
You know what? You can call ahead. Reservations. 585-742-2070. 585-742-2070. And we got a couple gift cards to give away, Big Tiz.
That's right. Actually, it's two $25 gift cards, to the lucky Steeler fan. Like I said, this year we're going to be doing a lot of contests online. A lot of things are happening. And you, the Steeler fan, can get a chance to win.
Yeah. When you go, if you do win the prize, when you go there for dinner, mention Steeler Nation Live to get additional discounts there. Also, here's an email for you, Big Tiz. And for those of you at home keeping score, get your pens, get your pencils out, write this down. Chef Tim at ottotomatoes.com. Go there. Chef Tim at ottotomatoes.com. It's out there. Call. Had to plug them.
Hey.
Had to put it in there. Because the food is delish. You got the mamas, greens and beans with the gnocchis. If you're Italian, it sounded pretty good, didn't it? There you go, folks. But we had to throw it in there. Don't worry, Big Sal. You're our main guy. We love you. But if you're not going for that sports bar atmosphere, low key, there you go, Big Tiz.
You heard it here, like you said.
Had to throw it in there.
We're gonna sponsor these guys. We're gonna put them behind Steeler Nation Live and let them know that we're out there to sponsor you guys. So there you have it. But we're going to jump right into the show. And one thing a big topic we wanted to talk about right now is the Steelers defense. Where is it?
Well, you know what, Big Tiz? What rises to my mind is the talk before. We weren't creating turnovers because we're too old, too slow. All right. Now we've revamped the defense.
Right.
Younger, faster players. Same response.
Well, if you look even over the last 6 quarters of football, the Steelers defense has given up at least 50 points. That's incredible. 50 points going against 6 points of offense in 6 quarters. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, you can't win ball games like that, Big Tiz.
Good recipe for disaster, and that's what's going on with the Steelers right now. A lot of the problems stem from the Steelers not being able to stop the run. Sounds familiar? 2013 season. Problems with the run, which opens up everything else, which we say is the play action and everything else. So that's a lot of the problems what's going on with the Steelers right now. The Steelers right now have given up at least 13 runs of 10 yards or more. Now, if you can't control the run, then that makes you worried of everything else in the game plan.
Right. That's about, if your math whizzes at home, that's about 5.6 yards per carry.
Yeah.
And what was good for the Steelers, what they were known for in the past, stopping the run and achieving the run on offense, it's not there anymore. And we could, talk till we're blue in the face about, the old critics, we're old, we're slow. Offense, let's all blame Todd Haley for it. And then when we start getting going, Ben's the man. Then when Ben messes up, now Ben's not the man. We need to get to some consensus here, Big Tiz.
Exactly.
And it seems the wheels are falling off the car.
Yeah. That's what's going on right now. And it seems like the wheels are falling onto the running backs of the other team because these guys are really bouncing off of tackles, guys not wrapping up. And it's like we're still in preseason form. I don't understand that at this rate. Did we cut the wrong guys? I mean, I don't know what's going on.
And not to mention creating turnovers. We are the worst team in the NFL since 2011 as far as takeaways.
Exactly.
The Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, we can go back to what we said before. That was the old defense, slow, old. Now we have a younger defense, faster defense, and we yet to create a turnover this season, first two games.
Well, like I said, if the Steelers can't remedy these problems on defense, and especially with the running quarterback coming into the game against the Panthers with Cam Newton, it's another recipe for disaster. So we hope that within this long week off from the game that they just finished Thursday night, that the Steelers have enough time to regroup, look at film, look at video, and get everything in line because they have to stay in their lanes, especially against a quarterback that can take off, as we got burned last year for 93 yards against Pryor for the Raiders. I mean, absolutely. Same type of quarterback.
And not to mention the fact that we don't take the ball away, the penalties on defense. Now, the unsportsmanship penalties against Mike Mitchell,
right,
against the Ravens. I mean, are we trying to overcompensate with hitting harder and trying to create and cause turnovers?
Right.
But by doing so, against the Ravens, we created too many penalties. And I got to tell you, Big Tiz, I think I've seen Ed Hockley more on my TV than Ben Roethlisberger throwing the ball.
Exactly. And that's what it looks like it's coming down to, Steeler fans. I mean, we have to cut down on our penalties on defense. Those are a lot of, we get penalties on both sides of the ball, but the fact is the majority of it's coming from our defense, which is amazing because we always used to have a lot of holding calls on our offense, but now the defense is making, this a complete package, a recipe for disaster. So let's hope that, like I said, with this long stretch off, the Steelers can find a remedy for it. Look at a lot of game film, whatever you got to do, wrap up and contain players. That's what we have to do. But right now, it's not looking good, guys. So,
right. As far as penalties go, as long as the referees are consistent both ways, we got the one penalty against the hard hit against Roethlisberger early in the first quarter against the Ravens. Clearly lowered his head, speared him. But then you got the penalty that we need to talk about this briefly, a little sidebar there, that this defenseless receiver penalty, I don't understand that. When Brown got nailed and he had to leave the game, he was pretty much defenseless and there was no penalty there. Same play, Mike Mitchell. I mean, what do you want the guy to do? I mean, the guy's wide open, he catches the ball, you're going to hit him. You're going to try and hit him hard to cause a fumble or to cause an incompletion. Now, I can understand why this rule or penalty was developed. That's for the quarterbacks overthrowing the receivers, underthrowing the receivers, balls that are not catchable, and these wide receivers getting laid out. But Tiz, help me on this. If you're wide open in the middle of the field and you catch the ball, why can I not hit you? Legally, not sparing with the head, not going for the head, not anything like that. Why can I not lower my shoulder into you and try and...
Well, like you said, and you alluded to earlier, the fact is that I know a lot of it is the fact that they're trying to keep these concussions down, and because the rate of concussions was so high in the NFL, and I can understand that to a certain point.
Well, let's be consistent.
But with the movement of the head in certain positions and things like that, that's not somebody trying to do a personal foul on somebody, more or less. That's not somebody trying to be nasty on a tackle. That's somebody who's out there to play football, and that's a part of it. But these penalties happen all over the league. But you know what? Hey, while we're here talking about this, let's step further into the studio to our main man, Joe Laurie. Joe, what is going on, brother?
Pleasure to be back on the show. The Steelers continue to struggle in Week 2, just as they did in the second half of Week 1 against the Cleveland Browns, with a 26-6 loss against the Ravens this past Thursday night. After all the Ray Rice talk, the Ravens and Steelers finally got down to football, and the Steelers might have thought that they had a little bit of a cakewalk against the Ravens. However, that did not hold true this past Thursday. The run D continued to struggle as running back Bernard Pierce of the Baltimore Ravens rushed for over 95 yards. The Steelers' next matchup is against the very dangerous Carolina Panthers, who last year finished the season at 12-4. This year are off to a hot start at 2-0. The defense for the Panthers looks stout, and their run game is always dangerous. Plus, on top of that, with Cam Newton getting his first start last week and looking like the Cam Newton of old, the Steelers' defense will most definitely have their hands full. The run defense, again, needs to step up. You have a four-man attack for the Carolina Panthers with running backs D'Angelo Williams, Jonathan Stewart, Mike Tolbert, and you can't forget the dynamic Cam Newton can also scramble out of the pocket and hopefully get some run yards for the Panthers against the Steelers. With the Steelers on prime time, anything can happen. So let's hope for the best, and I'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, Joe, for that report from the studio, Big Tiz. He hit on a bunch of hot topics. We already discussed about the defense not really being there and giving up too many yards, in the offense not producing any yards.
Yeah, Joe pointed out a lot of good points in that in his piece about the defense. As everybody knows, it's so visible to see on TV how the defense is giving up so many yards and how they are doing it over the last couple games. And now with him, talking about facing Cam Newton and the Panthers, it's gonna be a hard job for this defense. So they're the ones that have to really put the pedal to the metal. And I mean, the offense as well, but the defense, you got to sometimes help that offense, especially the offense right now that's kind of struggling.
Right, but I want to go back in time, Big Tiz. The first time we played the Redskins with RG3,
right,
and the whole talk about containing him and the receivers, Garcon, and all those awesome, the offensive firepower that the Redskins had at that time.
Right.
And look what we did to the Redskins. We dismantled them. I think Dick LeBeau needs to go back to that game. I know we have different players on defense now,
right,
as we did when we played the Redskins. But I think Dick LeBeau needs to go back into the archives and see what he had, the schemes that he developed to attack and counterattack RG3 with his running prowess, the play action, and how we contained all the receivers and the running game, and we came out victorious.
I agree. But the thing about it is, like I said, it goes. That's a part of it, but it goes into a whole package, and the Steelers have to get guys to wrap and contain and hold their lanes. All this stuff, which should have been going on in training, preseason, training camp, and things like that. It looks like these guys are still in that type of form, so they have to get out of it if they want to succeed.
That's true. And also we touched base on, the injuries to McClendon, sore shoulder, nothing, no separation, no nothing. He left the game, never returned. And the shot that Antonio Brown received during the game, it was a hard hit. Right. I wouldn't say it was necessarily cheap, but when you throw the flag against the Steelers defense for almost a similar hit and nobody left the field, I think, like we discussed earlier, there's got to be more consistency with referees. I understand, like you said, they're trying to protect the players. That's fine.
Right.
But this hitting defenseless receiver and being flagged for it and having it happen to us and not being flagged, that's very unfortunate and it's very irritating.
Hey guys, you know what? We're going to step the commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the Steelers versus the Ravens game. Next up on Steeler Nation Live.
Yeah, I had to say it was the stump, man. It is a stump, man.
Uniform Express, located on 1408 Buffalo Road, Rochester, New York, for your police, fire, or EMS supplies. One of Rochester's top and finest suppliers of shirts, pants, shoes, boots, and accessories for your professional uniform needs. Uniform Express also does embroidery and screen print for team uniforms, jerseys, and corporations. Hours are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can also go to their website at www.uniformexpress.com or call Brian at 585-529-4245. That's 585-529-4245. And let Brian know you heard his ad on our show, Steeler Nation Live.
Welcome back to Steel Nation Live. I'm Big O.
I'm Big Tiz.
And right now we're going to go over the stats from the Ravens-Steelers ball game. And they're not looking too good there, Big Tiz.
No. For the Steelers side, I see a lot of zeros, so that that doesn't hold well for a win.
If you're on an Easter egg hunt, that would be great. But no, I mean, that's not what you want to see unless the other team is putting up, zeros too, which that didn't happen. I think the Ravens scored at least a field goal or touchdown in all 4 quarters.
Right.
And it's hard to win games when you don't. So, open up, first drive, Pittsburgh Steelers got the ball. They're driving down the field like normal. Looked really good. They had the running game. Le'Veon Bell was catching the ball out of backfield. Ben was right on target.
Right.
And then Justin Brown.
Big fumble.
It wasn't even a big hit.
No.
Big Tiz. It was just like
that's another aspect of it. The guys, they have to learn to hold on to the ball. In every game, turnovers can be a deciding factor in the game, and that's what's been going on with the Steelers. These turnovers have been putting these guys in holes. So, especially with the defense right now that's having problems with the issue and trying to find themselves with new additions, and you got rookies that's starting more or less in some spots. So,
right.
You got to take care of the ball, and that's what's going on with the Steelers. These turnovers, these mental mistakes.
Yeah, disaster. I mean, a recipe for disaster, Big Tiz. Not creating turnovers and giving the ball away. Too many penalties. Not scoring.
Right.
And there's no sacks. There's no splash plays, and that is a huge recipe for a loss, especially when you can't put points on the board. And because of the Steelers did not score a touchdown in this game, running or passing, that broke Ben Roethlisberger's 30-game streak of scoring or throwing at least one touchdown pass. And we had our chances. But we just couldn't come through.
Exactly. Well, I mean, if you look at it in this game, I mean, the Steelers, they put up 17 first downs opposed to the Ravens 25. Total yards for the Steelers were 301 compared to 323 for the Ravens. I mean, that was close in comparison, but a lot of it for the Steelers was more or less the Steelers trying to get back into the game, so they're doing a lot of passing. And penalties, another big one for the Steelers. 9 penalties for 75 yards as opposed to 4 penalties for 35 yards for the Ravens. That's what we talk about, those mental mistakes, those things that keeps another team in the game. The Steelers are making all those plays right now to keep teams in games.
Right, and 15 of the 35 yards for the Ravens was that one hit against Roethlisberger early in the first quarter and the first drive, which kept the drive alive. They were third and forever, and that helped us out to get the first down. But as you said, Big Tiz, the turnovers were huge. You're giving the ball away, but you're not taking it back. In time of possession, 35 minutes for the Ravens as opposed to 24 for the Steelers.
That's ball control, and a lot of that comes from the run, having problems stopping the run, picking up third downs on 3rd and 3, 3rd and 1, those prolonged drives, and that's just what the Ravens were doing to us, and exactly what Cleveland Browns were doing to us. Right,
and Roethlisberger 22 for 37 for 217 yards. He, however, did have that one interception. We talked about the 30-game streak being broken for Roethlisberger. Bell, 11 carries, 59 yards, no TDs. Brown, 7 receptions for 90 yards, no TDs. I think Wallace for the Dolphins had a better game for once than Antonio Brown. Granted, it was against the Bills, but they did lose against the Bills.
Right.
So I guess that means nothing.
Well, you know what? Let's go over some of the defensive stats from that game for the Steelers. Where we're always talking about defense and harping on defense. We'll talk about both sides of the ball. I mean, well, both teams' defense on both sides of the ball. But the fact that the defense for the Steelers, 0 sacks, 0 fumbles, 0 interceptions.
That's inexcusable, Big Tiz.
Yeah.
And as Mike Tomlin referred to as his post-game conference, you can't play ball games like that, and things have got to change. But you know what, folks? Tomlin's been saying the same speech over and over again. It's time to step up, and it's time to do something. Your thoughts, Big Tiz?
I agree, like I said, but it starts with these guys wanting to believe that they can control what happens on that field. I mean, you can have all the teachings you want in the world, you can have a great motivator, but if you can't wrap your hands around somebody and put them down or stay in your lanes, these mental mistakes are what can kill any type of team that's trying to go on and win, especially us. We're trying to get to 7, and things like this are going to keep us right where we're at for a long time.
Right. Now let's look at Flacco's stats here. 21 for 29, 2 TDs, however, to Owen Daniels.
Right.
And we all know why. Play action.
Exactly.
You see it coming. It's a whole setup. They run right. He goes left. And when you're a linebacker on that side covering a tight end, I don't play football, folks. Big Tiz, you don't play, but we pretty much know the game.
Right.
So with that being said, if you're covering somebody and the offense is going right and your guy you're covering is going left, would you not stay with this guy? We could be here all night. But you know what I'm trying to say, Big Tiz?
Exactly. It's just like I said, it's the simple plays, the mental mistakes these guys have to stop on those type of things. And, like I said, Pierce, 22 carries, 96 yards. And this guy, he's almost putting up 100 yards on us. And, we had rookie backs from Cleveland putting up 100 yards on us. You can't do these things. The defense has to find somebody they're going to stop. And you got veterans, older veterans like Steve Smith. Granted, he had a good game before the Steeler game, but now 6 catches for 71 yards. Didn't get a touchdown, but I'm pretty sure if he had a little bit more time, he probably got one. And Owen Daniels, he did damage. 5 catches, 28 yards, but 2 touchdowns, 2 critical touchdowns. And like Big O alluded to earlier, touchdowns that could have been avoided. But they all came off the same things, the play action, the same things the Cleveland Browns laying the blueprints for everybody in the league for.
Now, how did the defense do, Big Tiz?
The defense for the Ravens, 2 sacks, 2 fumbles, 1 interception.
Now, the week prior against the Bengals, the Ravens put up what we put up. 0 sacks, 0 fumbles, no interceptions. And we all know who won that game. It was the Bengals, who are 2-0, sitting at the top of our division right now, looking down at everybody who's 1-1. And we all know the Cleveland Browns defeated the New Orleans Saints.
Exactly.
Who saw that coming? But you know what? They're coming to town later this year in November. I think it's November 20th they come to town. And I do believe that if the Browns can beat them, I believe we can beat them too, because we're all pretty much matched the same. But by then, hopefully, the Steelers will have their act together. We'll be scoring points. We'll be taking away fumbles, interceptions, bunch of sacks, and we're looking like the Steelers of old, Big Tiz.
Well, Big O, you know what? We talked a lot about things that happened in the Steelers-Ravens game, but what are some of the things that came out of? What are any major injuries that came out of this game, the Steelers versus the Ravens?
Well, it's we don't know right now.
Right.
But the hit on Antonio Brown, we had to leave the game, looked to me like a possible concussion. But he came back later in the game and he played through. Still no touchdowns, but he didn't look like the Antonio Brown. So that's left to be said. We'll have to see how it's going to be. We got that 1 week, almost like a bye.
Right.
So we have that 1 week to recover and see how he is. Also, McClendon, he went down with a shoulder injury. Nothing extensive, nothing too abrasive right now. That's still in the works. And Mike Tomlin alluded to that in his post-game conference. Not to be worried. We don't have a problem with him playing next game. So nothing really, as far as that, with the bumps and the bruises and the cuts and the scrapes like any normal player would get during an NFL game, we got.
Well, one of the players I didn't know, and I was hoping that would be no issues, especially from the hit, was Roethlisberger. Because it seemed like after you got that big hit in the game, his throws were off. I didn't know if maybe it affected his vision or something, but, he took a good shot in the ribs.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised, because if something comes on later the week that he may have bruised ribs, or he might have some contusion to the sternum.
Right.
Or maybe possible the throwing shoulder, because he did get, this wasn't a little guy who hit him. This guy was almost 300 pounds. He's running full speed.
Oh, yeah.
And when he put the head down and drilled him, I'm surprised his helmet didn't go through his shoulder pads. But he did took a solid hit. And not to mention, when you get thrown back on the ground, your head snaps down. So
exactly.
We have a lot of stuff that could be going on that's not being divulged right now. Don't worry, folks. Nothing's being said. But don't be surprised if his cobwebs got a little shaken or whatever. So
let's hope not, because the Steelers got a big game And speaking of big games, the Steelers are going to be stepping into Carolina this week. Now, stepping into Carolina, Big O, what's the weather look like for this weekend coming with the Steelers stepping into the Carolina Panthers?
Well, I'll tell you what, they're in uptown Charlotte, North Carolina. It's an 8:30 game. It's a Sunday night game.
Right.
But during the day, it's going to be mostly sunny, probably cloudy. It's going to be high 83, low 65, high 60s. So it's going to be a great night for football.
Okay.
The chance of rain is 0%, but the chance of Pittsburgh coming in with a victory is 100%, Big Tiz.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. See, when you keep that type of mental edge, things are going to go a long way. And so we have to make that progress into the players. So you know what I mean? This is all we want here.
So, folks, if you're lucky enough to be down there during the game, or if you live down in North Carolina and you are a Steeler fan, which you should be, enjoy the game. It's going to be a great night for football, weather-wise.
Exactly. Well, guys, you know what? Now let's get into the Steelers versus the Panthers. The Steelers are going to have to be on top of their game with this one.
Oh, absolutely.
Because these guys, you're more or less got three running backs that's on the team. You got the quarterback, Cam Newton, plus your two backs, Stewart and D'Angelo Williams.
Yeah. Now, going into the last game against the Lions, everybody pretty much had the Lions picked on this one because the Carolina defense wasn't the defense they were last year.
Exactly.
The dangerous, the aggressive, the young, the spirited defense. So they looked upon that as Megatron's going to have a huge day against them. And so we all know what happened. 24-7, I think, was the final score, Big Tiz. And Megatron was held to, I believe, what was it? 83 yards and 6. That's a good night for some receivers, but not for Megatron. 83 yards and no touchdown.
Exactly. Well, like I said, this is what the Steelers have to do. The Steelers have to do that to the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers, they don't even have a star receiver, really.
This is true. Well, they have their star receiver is Greg Olsen, their tight end. That's their go-to guy, like a Jason Witten would be to Tony Romo.
Right. But the scary thing with that is the Steelers have been getting burned a lot, as you just seen in the Steelers-Ravens game, by tight ends. Tight ends are scoring touchdowns, and Timmons got burned for a long one against the Cleveland Browns by a tight end.
Right.
So these and they're going to use Olsen, great tight end. Top tight, one of the better tight ends in the league. This guy, they have to watch the play action because they're going to run it to death, especially with a quality tight end like this guy.
Oh, absolutely. And Jason Avant, and we all know Cotchery went down there, left the Steelers. You know, no hard feelings. Just he's got to go. He signs with a team. We got some other receivers. What are you going to do, Big Tiz? It's a business. And running backs, I'm really not, the way we've been playing defense of late, when you got rookies running 100 yards on us, it doesn't look too good.
I mean, what else could you say? D'Angelo Williams, he's a good back. I mean, he's a veteran back. So these guys get in there, and they're gonna come at us with the run game because they know these are the keys. Like I said, Cleveland Browns laid the blueprint for everything. Run on these guys because they can't stop it.
Right.
And these guys don't stay in their lanes and they don't wrap up. So you got guys like this, and you got big backs coming in, and you got Tolbert. Tolbert's another heavy back that the Carolina Panthers use at the goal line. Number 35, this guy is a bruiser.
Right.
And the Steelers have to be ready for this. I mean, all in all, I believe one of the keys for the Steelers to win this game is that they have to stay in their lanes. You have to hold tackles to minimal gains.
Right.
And one of the main keys is you have to put pressure on Cam Newton and frustrate him into bad throws.
I agree with you 100%, Big Tiz. However, my key to victory against the Panthers is keep Cam Newton off the field. Have the Steelers run the ball. Keep the Steelers' offense on the field so they won't have to worry about Cam Newton and the defense not doing their job. Maintain the clock, run the ball, throw when you have to. And what I liked against the Ravens that the Steelers didn't do a lot of, believe it or not, play action. We had a couple end arounds, couple reverses that were fantastic, and just do some special stuff. Do some stuff that people won't think the Steelers are capable of, like the fake punt that we did that we talked about before. The last time the Steelers did a fake punt was 1980 with punter Greg Colquitt. We all know who he is, right? No, we don't. And the time before that was 1959. So, you know, these specialty plays that aren't familiar to other opposing teams, I think the Steelers need to start doing some of those.
I agree. Right now, as the way they're playing right now, you have to do whatever works. And the Steelers, they need some kind of big splash play or something that's going to get these guys motivated and get them on the right path. So let's hope the Steelers can find that, especially in this game against the Carolina Panthers. It's a huge game, a young defense on the Carolina side that's physical, and they stay around the ball, and they have a good front four. So the Steelers have to be ready for this game. That run game has to be on point, and you open up the run with these little short passes and completing them and holding on to the ball. That's the major key the Steelers have to do.
Right, and that was another key to Ravens' victory against the Steelers defense. Flacco, we couldn't get to him because he had the ball out and he was throwing the ball before we can get to him.
Right.
Those short outlet passes, and then when the Steelers, instead of playing soft, they came up and they pressed, and those passes went away, and Flacco was kind of like at a loss, didn't know what to do, so he just handed up the middle for some right. So,
well, guys, all we can say is a lot of keys that we came up with here for the Steelers to have a victory. Let's hope that the Steelers can watch this, learn from it, and execute it. That's the main thing you have to do. You have to execute, and these guys have to, like we said, stay in your lanes, control Cam Newton, eat up clock, and play defense. Vacation time is over.
That's right. You know what, Big Tiz? I think the Steelers are one sack, one turnover away from turning this defense around and proving to these young players that, yes, you can do it. I think it's just one turnover or one sack, and I think the Steelers defense will turn this thing around.
Hey, you have it here from Steeler Nation Live. We're going to go to a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to touch base on guess who? Ray Rice. Next up on Steeler Nation Live.
Heckle and Jekyll, sports cards, collectibles, and video games. Open 7 days a week here in Rochester, New York. Mike has all kinds of individual cards and packs.
And
baseball, football, basketball, hockey, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, just to name a few. Mike also has the widest variety of video games too, from Sega Genesis to Wii to PlayStation to Nintendo, Game Boy Color Advance, and so on. Mike has all the old school games you can't rent or buy anymore. Mike also has a great selection of autographed memorabilia, sports jerseys, hats, 8x10s signed by your professional athletes for you to buy. He also has video game, Yu-Gi-Oh, and poker tournaments, Beanie Babies, Bratz dolls, sports figures, and more. Mike runs a show 7 days a week. Call Mike, 585-889-9130. That's 585-889-9130. Folks, if you're not in Rochester and you're looking for that hard-to-buy memorabilia, call Mike or look him up on the web at heckjack@rochester.rr.com. Once again, folks, that's heckjack@rochester.rr.com. But if you are in Rochester, you can go down to Chile Avenue, that's 3240 in the Chile Paul Village. So come down, tell Mike you saw us on the show, and he'll cut you a discount. Just kidding, Mike. Mike has all the discounts anyways. So remember, Heckle & Jekyll sports cards, collectibles, and video games open 7 days a week.
Hey, welcome back, Steeler Nation fans. Big Tiz,
Big O.
Hey fans, one thing we're going to jump on, and it's a hot topic that's trending a lot of places, is this Ray Rice situation. What is going on with Ray Rice? I mean, we're getting a lot of stories out there. We're hearing a lot of things right now. Right now, the NFL Players Association right now are getting with Ray Rice, and they're going to appeal the decision to, have this indefinite ban on Ray Rice. So there are a lot of things that's going on with this situation.
I think the reason why they're going that way, Big Tiz, is because, first of all, they not sentenced him. They said, okay, here's what's going to happen because of what you did. We're going to suspend you 2 games. He did everything they asked him to do, and then suddenly this other video comes up, and now they release him. I think that's what they're talking about. Once you set your punishment,
right?
I mean, how can you change that? I mean, not trying to defend Ray Rice in any way, but I think this is what the Players Association is going for. You already punished him. Now you're double punishing him. It's almost like double jeopardy, but
yeah,
I think that an employer or an NFL team owner, you bring this kind of light to your team, I think the owner needs to do whatever they can to get, to get their team name in a good light.
Right. Well, the thing about it is there are a lot of things that are stemmed from this, and a lot of it is Goodell. A lot of people now are vehemently asking for his resignation. A lot of people want him out there. A lot of battered women groups and things like that want him out of his position because of he made bad decisions with this Ray Rice situation, and just suspending him. I guess early on was for the 2 games. But then later on, they ended up having the indefinite ban on him. But the fact is that a lot of situations in the NFL, a lot of domestic disputes happened over a period of time anyway that weren't even handled correctly as well.
Right. But I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second here, Big Tiz. Not that I'm going to defend Goodell in any way, shape, or form, because you know how I have my opinions on him. But I'm going to try and clear my head for this.
Right.
Now, everybody wants to point a finger at Goodell. However, there's people underneath him. He has a team. He has employees underneath him who bring him information. Now, did these people bring him this information? And I don't understand if they did, like when the NFL was told that they received the tape back in April. I don't understand if he received this tape, why did he not act back then? He acted now, so which means that after seeing the initial video of Ray Rice dragging and dropping his fiancée out into the floor in the lobby, dragging her out of the elevator,
right?
He saw that and he imposed a fine, or not a fine, a sentence on that.
Right.
Now, had he seen the first video, which he says he hasn't,
right,
I do believe that the commissioner would have did something different. I honestly believe. Why would he cover that up? I mean, it's a big black guy on the Ravens, not necessarily the NFL as a whole entity. Yes, the Ravens are part of the NFL, but once you get this information and you get this evidence,
right,
and you lay it down, whether it's as bad as Ray Rice, I think Goodell washes his hands and that's it. We need to take care of this problem. I really don't believe that he saw. Not saying the NFL never had it,
right,
but I think there's a possibility that this video was withheld from him seeing it.
Very, very high possibility. I mean, but to me, if you're going to go through, I believe it was an investigation, or you're trying to wait till the outcome of this thing. I don't know. I just think they reacted in the wrong way. They made bad moves, and it's been proven. So now everybody's bringing up cases from what happened from before for 50-plus cases of domestic dispute that players went through.
Right.
And they weren't resolved correctly. So that's the outpour of that. And now with the Ray Rice situation being out front and being on video, it magnifies it even that much more. And, not to even just stay on the Ray Rice situation, let's jump to the other situation. What's even worse, making a more black eye for the NFL, is Adrian Peterson's situation. What's going on with the NFL and their players?
Well, I don't know, Big Tiz. Do you think? Let me answer your question with a question. Do you think that there would be this much discussion on this topic or topics if these were players that nobody had heard about?
No, I really don't.
I don't either. I think because Ray Rice is such a huge part of the Baltimore Ravens running attack as far as their team, and Adrian Peterson, one of the greatest running backs of all time, and not even in his prime yet.
Right.
I do believe you're correct in that. I think if it was somebody that we'd never heard of, you don't hear about this, because you touched base on it a couple seconds ago that this happens throughout the NFL, happens throughout baseball, happens throughout hockey, it happens throughout all sports across the globe, and I think it's only news if the All-Star or if the MVP is doing it.
Exactly. And I know a lot of people say that with this Adrian Peterson situation, they're saying that it was a child neglect or child abuse type case here with Adrian Peterson. I mean, I don't know all the facts. I know what I hear on TV, and I know, what they're putting on TV. But the fact is that it's a black eye, and they look at these guys as supposed to be ambassadors for the league, and you got your top guys getting heavy charges like this. I mean, not murder charges, but heavy charges.
Well, you got to take into consideration, both aspects, the Ray Rice and the Adrian Peterson incidents. You have to take the aggressors and the victims. Mm-hmm. One's a woman, and one's a 4-year-old child.
Right.
Who speaks for the 4-year-old child? I mean, we had Charles Barkley spoke a couple days ago about, that's how things are handled in the South.
Right.
Just because something goes on doesn't make it right. I'm sorry. And what Boomer Esiason said on Sunday, I have to agree with him. I mean, a 4-year-old defenseless child there's a difference between discipline and abuse. And if this goes on over a period of time, it's abuse.
Right.
Big Tiz. If it happens once in a while, you need help either way. But if it happens once in a while, I'm not saying it's fine, but it doesn't have the same magnitude as a continual basis. Now, getting back to the Ray Rice issue, had they have domestic problems before? Is this a first time offense? Is this a first time? Nobody's saying anything. Not that it helps or softens the situation.
Right.
Because she should be used to it or anything like that. That's silly. But just like a drug addict, say if you had a wide receiver quarterback, let's just say Ben Roethlisberger, mm-hmm. right? If he had this cocaine issue,
right,
and he was, doing bad because of cocaine issues. I'm not saying that's what the problem is now, but the first thing that he would happen was a team would gather around him, find a problem, and get him help. If you abuse women domestically, domestic violence, you need help just as a drug addict would. You need anger issues. Mm-hmm. If you beat a child, not discipline, not spank, because I have children too, and I know you have children too, Big Tiz, and there's been occasional swatting on the fanny. No bruises, no switches, no marks.
Right.
That's one thing. But what happens in the past, or still happens now because of the past, just because you do something doesn't make it right.
Right.
And I'm not saying Adrian Peterson needs to leave the NFL, never play again. That's absurd. And the same thing with Ray Rice. That's absurd. These two men have issues.
Well, like in the Adrian Peterson case, a lot of it I see is, and I'm going to be a devil's advocate to a lot of people out there, and there are people out there, I don't in any way condone abusing a child. But I know there has to be reprimand for incorrect behavior. And if that reprimand is spanking your child, or if that reprimand is whatever you do in your situation, if standing in the corner works for you, then it works for you. But if standing in the corner doesn't work, you have to go to different measures. And I believe Adrian Peterson, in his own mind, he thought this was a correct measure for the way he grew up, I guess. And and a lot of people have had things like this where they were spanked a lot as a kid. But the thing about it is, and there's some kids that had some wild spankings, let's be honest. But the fact is that sometimes things work differently for each kid. Each kid is different.
Absolutely. Every family, the way people raise their kids. We basically talk about, let's get back to Charles Barkley, mm-hmm. how people were raised in the South.
Right.
And it goes on for generation, because that's all they know.
Right, exactly.
And I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not telling you how to be a parent. I'm not saying how to discipline your children. But what I'm saying is, just because something was done before and you do it now, doesn't make it right.
Correct. And like I said, there's a lot of different things I've been hearing in different reports, marks on a kid or on his son or different things like that. And myself, I don't know Adrian Peterson personally, but it seems like he's a father that wants his kids to go on a positive path. And a positive path means, sometimes you get so many different things in the environment that's going to kind of steer your kid the wrong way. And he wants to be a stern, hardcore father that his kids, you know, and I'm pretty sure he wants to set a good example for his kids. Does that mean that because he beat his kid that he's, you know, trying to set these bad examples, or does that mean he's a bad father? I don't think so. Maybe, you know, when all the facts come out, maybe there might be a mind change, but the fact is right now, all I know is a father that's trying to discipline his kid. Maybe he did step over bounds that time, and I don't know if this ever happened before, and if it happened before, I don't know, like you said, like, maybe that is how they handle things in the South. I mean, I as a kid, I've gotten into a lot of things, and I've gotten into a lot of things, some good, some bad. But the bad things, my father put me in place, you know, and if he wasn't there to put a firm hand or a firm whatever he put on me, the fact is, I could have went a different way, and I know that.
That's true. But we're not here, like I said earlier, we're not here to this is not Big Tiz and Big O's How to Raise Your Kids show, or how to discipline your kids. You touch base on it. Everybody's different. Standing in the corner, timeouts. Some kids abide by it, some kids don't. But my firm stand on it is that it's just wrong. I mean, to a point, if you want to spank your kid, I mean, if they don't respond to that, am I going to punch him in his face? You know what I mean? It just. Right. But getting enough of that right now. Let's take it a step further. Do you believe, Big Tiz, and Bill Cowher is on this I don't want to say tour, but he's been on the TV as of late, saying that athletes need to be held to higher standards. How do you feel about that, or do you agree?
Athletes need to be held to a higher standard?
They do.
Well, I kind of agree and I don't agree. The only reason that I say that is because these guys are already on a high pedestal already. And now you want to almost you're trying to held them to a even higher standard, but they're human beings just like you and I.
Right.
You know, what the situation with Ray Rice, was it correct? No. Has there been other people that have gotten in situations with their spouse or their boyfriend and, you know, they worked it out and things were actually fine? Yes. But you know what? The reason that these guys have to be held to a certain standard is because these guys are more in the public eye than, say, you or I.
Right. And you know what? I'm a fan of Charles Barkley to a point. And he's never played for the Knicks. I'm a huge Knicks fan.
Mistake.
You had to laugh. All right. However, with that being said, I always liked his tenacity on the court.
Right.
And I gotta be honest with you, Big Tiz. Not that I've been dishonest with you in the past, but a lot of people say that. To be honest with you, Big Tiz, when Charles Barkley made that commercial, I can't remember. I think it was when he went to the Phoenix Suns. He got traded one of the million times he got traded. His commercial was basically, "I'm not your kid's role model. You want a role model? Look at your parents." And I do agree with that. Yes, athletes need to be held to a higher than normal standard because, like you said, Big Tiz, they're out in the limelight more than you and me. They're always on TV. They're always, and kids emulate these players. I've done it in the past.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure you've done it in the past.
Yeah, wearing that favorite jersey, your favorite player, when you go out there and you do things and you're trying to make this player do this or whatever, or you wear it around town or whatever. The thing about it is you want to have somebody that stands for something.
Right.
Exactly. That leaves a legacy and leaves a positive legacy if so be it.
You want a mark to shoot for.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, like I said, guys, these are big topics here, and we touch base on a lot of them here on Still a Nation Live. A lot of them might be a little touchy for some of you guys, and we're just giving our own opinions on some things and some things that we hear out there in the media, the social media, and different things like that. So make sure you keep sending info into us. Check us out on our sites at www.stillationlive.net. And there you can send your pics and everything. You can go up there and upload pics, beautiful pics. You want to see you in your best Steeler wear here on Still a Nation Live.
Yeah, we want to see pick of the week. We want to start that out, Big Tiz. We want that selfie. If you send us your selfie and we put on the show and or the website, you may win a prize.
Exactly. That's why I said you always have to keep watching because we do a lot on this show. And like I said, one thing we wanted to end the show off with saying thanks to you, Steeler fans and the Steeler social media networks and things like that. The fact that, that you allow us to come into your homes or watch us and view us. And we really appreciate that here on Still a Nation Live,
Not to forget our sponsors, Big Sal McGinney's. We got Brian over there at Uniform Express for your Uniform Express needs, shirts, shoes, pants for your EMS and fire and police, stuff like that. We have local sponsors here in Rochester, New York. We're 5.5 hours away from Pittsburgh, but you know what? Our hearts are there in Pittsburgh all the time. We're backing the Steelers, some with the Pirates. I'm a Yankee fan, but
but for Pittsburgh, we tried it. We tried to get
absolutely.
everything.
Penguins. We love the city of Pittsburgh. We love what Pittsburgh is all about. We love the Steelers, obviously, and coming up, born and raised in Rochester, New York, up here. Not too much goes on except you have a lot of Steeler fans.
Oh yeah.
But then we got Buffalo Bills fans. We're only 65 miles east of Buffalo, so we have to deal with those clowns. But we have a lot of Steeler fans in Rochester, and we just took a dream in a minute and tried to put this together for you folks. And we appreciate you, like Big Tiz said, bringing us into your home, your car, your work. If you're checking us out on your computer, which you probably shouldn't be doing at work, or your phone or whatever, check us out, www.steelernationlive.net, and see what we're all about. Facebook, tweet,
whatever it is. But we're all going to be there for you.
We want your feedback, folks. We want to know, good or bad, which there shouldn't be any bad, because we'll find out where it came from. We'll hunt you down. No, I'm just kidding. But no, we want to know how we can make this show better for you. So if there's negative feedback, it's going to hurt, but we'll get over it. That will show us what we need to do to make this show better.
So until next time on Steeler Nation Live, Big Tiz
and I'm Big O.
We'll see you after the Steelers dismantle the Carolina Panthers.
And don't forget Otto Tomatoes. Look it up. Beautiful, delicious, low-key, great food. Chef Tim at AutoTomatoes.com. Check him out.